Pathetic old failure, whispered my daughter's fiancé, his voice dripping with a contempt so heavy it seemed to curdle the air between us. This party is absolutely terrible. He didn't know who I really was. He didn't know that I own the massive corporation where both his parents work. They were about to find out the truth in the worst possible way, at the precise moment their careers and their delusions of grandeur shattered into a million irreparable pieces. Betrayal of this magnitude won't go unpunished. Before we continue this tale of justice, please subscribe to this channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. I stood in the shadowed corner of Bella Italia, a modest but beloved establishment on the east side of Indianapolis, watching my daughter Mia glow in the soft, dim lighting of the dining room. At 29 years old, she was an elementary school teacher with a heart that was perhaps too big for this cynical world. She clutched Julian's arm like he was a prize she had won at a carnival, and my chest tightened with a mix of fatherly protection and a growing, gnawing anxiety. Julian Mercer, 32 years old, holding an MBA and currently unemployed, though Mia didn't know that fact yet. I'd done my homework when he proposed 3 months ago. When you have built a business empire from a single rusty truck into a logistical powerhouse, you learn to trust your instincts about people. You smell a bad deal before you see the paperwork. I had chosen Bella Italia deliberately. It was a small, family-run Italian place with red checkered tablecloths, the smell of garlic and baking bread in the air, and photographs of the owner's grandmother on the walls. I'd ordered simple, honest food: chicken parmesan, heavy on the mozzarella, a crisp garden salad, baskets of hot garlic bread, and a 3-tier cake from the local bakery down the street. There were 50 guests, mostly Mia's fellow teachers and friends. I wanted to see how Julian and his family would react to ordinary. I wanted to see if they could appreciate simplicity or if they demanded a spectacle. The answer came within the first hour, sharp and cutting. "Is this really all the decoration?" Evelyn Mercer, Julian's mother, examined the single balloon arch I had set up with a critical, sneering eye. She wore a navy blue silk dress that probably cost more than the entire party budget. She adjusted her pearl necklace, looking around as if she feared she might catch a disease from the walls. "I mean, it's sweet, Arthur, really it is, but engagements are supposed to be memorable events. This feels quaint." "It's perfect, Mom," said Mia quickly, stepping in to defend me, though I saw her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Robert Mercer, Julian's father, approached the buffet line with the expression of a health code inspector looking for a rat. He lifted the lid of a chafing dish. "Traditional, I suppose," he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. He let the lid drop with a loud, dismissive clang. Julian circled the cake table. 3 tiers, he noted dryly. "Cute." He snapped a photo with his phone, likely for social media, and walked away without even tasting the frosting. I smiled and played the role I had crafted for myself, the retired widower on a fixed income, the man who clipped coupons and drove a clunker. I'd worn my oldest sports coat, the one with the fraying elbows, and driven my 15-year-old Honda Civic to the venue. I had left my Rolex and my tailored suits in the safe at home. At 68 years old, I've learned a vital truth about humanity. People reveal their true selves when they think you are beneath them. When they think you have no power, they show you your teeth. Around 8 p.m., I excused myself to go to the restroom. On my way back, walking through the narrow hallway, I heard hushed, urgent voices coming from the small alcove near the kitchen service entrance. I paused. It was Julian's voice, sharp and distinct. "This is embarrassing. Look at this place. It smells like old cheese and desperation." "Keep your voice down," Robert hissed. "The old man can barely afford this dump as it is. Did you see the napkins? They're paper, not even linen." Then came Evelyn's laugh, a cruel, tinkling sound. "Well, darling, look on the bright side. You're not marrying him, you're just marrying his daughter. Thank God for that." Julian's contempt was thick, clogging the air. "Old failure, this party is terrible." At least once we're married, I can fix things, get us into a decent house, get control of whatever meager assets he has. I stood frozen behind a decorative pillar. The words hit me like physical punches to the gut. Old failure. The important thing, Evelyn said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, is that Mia seems sweet enough to manipulate, and Arthur must have something saved. We just need to be patient. We tolerate him for now. I'm patient, Julian scoffed, but I'm not living like this. We're getting a house in Carmel, somewhere that doesn't scream struggling retiree or poverty, somewhere people like us belong.
They laughed, all three of them, a united front of greed and arrogance. I counted to 20 in my head. My hands shook, not from fear, but from a rage that was heating up my blood. I forced my breathing to slow, composed my face, and walked back into the party with a smile. Mia rushed over as soon as I emerged. "Dad, is everything okay? You were gone a while." "Fine, sweetheart, just tired. The party's wonderful, thank you." She hugged me tight, and I held her, thinking about the vipers she was about to marry into. "Anything for you, Dad," she whispered. The rest of the evening blurred into a montage of fake smiles and hidden daggers. I watched Julian charm Mia's friends, playing the role of the devoted, successful fiancé. I watched Robert and Evelyn judge every detail with their eyes, sneering at the wine, poking at the food. When the last guest finally left, Mia kissed my cheek. "Dad, you're amazing, worth every penny." "I love you, Mia," I said. Julian shook my hand. His grip was weak, limp, the handshake of a man who didn't respect the person he was touching. "Thanks, Arthur. It was nice." Nice. The word hung in the damp night air like smoke. They drove away in Julian's leased BMW, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot. It was a warm August night, humid and heavy. Angelo, the restaurant owner, came out with a box. "Mr. Sterling, leftover cake, you take it." "Keep it, Angelo. Thanks for everything." "Your daughter, she is a good girl," Angelo said, patting my shoulder. "The best," I replied, my voice catching. "She deserves the best." I drove home in silence. My house is in Broad Ripple, built in 1947. I bought it 30 years ago for $80,000. It's worth maybe $350,000 now, but I never cared about moving to a gated community. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table. The old clock on the wall ticked loudly. Tick, tock. The anger I had suppressed at the party began to bubble over. Old failure, terrible party. At least once we're married, I can fix things. They didn't know. None of them knew. I pulled out my laptop and opened it. The screen illuminated the dark kitchen. I had 347 unread messages from work. Sterling Logistics Group. We are a logistics company with 412 employees across Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. We generated $47 million in revenue last year. I am not retired. I go to the office 4 days a week. I just don't advertise it. I park in the private garage. I take the private elevator. I opened our HR database, the one accessible only to executive leadership, and typed Mercer into the search bar. 2 results popped up instantly. Robert Mercer, Operations Manager, Indianapolis Terminal. Employed 12 years. Salary $95,000. Evelyn Mercer, Senior Accountant, Corporate Office. Employed 12 years. Salary $82,000. I sat back in my creaky wooden chair and laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was the sound of a wolf realizing the sheep had walked right into its den. They worked for me. Julian's parents worked for me, and they had absolutely no idea. The company has layers of management. I stay out of day-to-day operations. Most employees have never seen me. I am a name on the letterhead, a digital signature on quarterly reports. I am anonymous by design, invisible by choice. I thought about their voices in that alcove, their contempt, their certainty that I was nothing more than a bug to be squashed or a resource to be mined. Mia deserved better than Julian, better than his poisonous, climbing family, and I was going to show her exactly who they were. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table until dawn broke, replaying every interaction I'd had with Julian over the last few months. The anger cooled into something harder, something sharp and focused like a diamond. Around 6 a.m., I went for my morning run, 3 miles through the neighborhood. Broad Ripple was quiet, the streets empty. The air smelled like cut grass in the impending heat of the day. But as I ran, memories surfaced, red flags I'd explained away because I wanted Mia to be happy. 6 weeks ago, Julian came for dinner. I'd made meatloaf and mashed potatoes, a staple comfort food. He had picked at his plate like I'd served him cafeteria sludge. "You still living in this place, Arthur?" He had gestured with his fork at the walls of my dining room. "It's got character, sure, but the maintenance on these old houses must be tough. You probably watch every dollar, don't you?" "I manage," I said simply.
"Just saying," he continued with a smug grin. "At your age, you might want to downsize. Get something manageable, maybe a senior community." He leaned back in his chair. "Financial planning is my background, Arthur. You've got to think about the future. Make sure you're not burning through your savings." Another memory surfaced. 3 weeks ago, at Robert and Evelyn's barbecue at their house in Castleton, a nice 2-story colonial, professionally landscaped, mortgaged to the hilt. Robert had been turning burgers on the grill. "You know, Arthur," Robert had said, swirling his beer, "Julian is smart. MBA from Butler. He's going places. Mia seems happy." "She should be," I said. "Julian could have his pick, you know," Robert said, lowering his voice. "Good-looking, educated, ambitious. He could have gone for a woman with prospects, career women, family money." He fixed me with a look that was supposed to be friendly but felt like a slap. "I hope you know what a lucky break this is for your daughter. Tina is sweet, but she's a teacher, not exactly a gold mine. You should appreciate that my son sees past all that." I ran faster, my feet pounding the pavement. Every conversation played differently now. They had judged me from the start, a burden, a struggling retiree, a failure. By the time I finished my run, the sun was fully up. I walked back past Bella Italia and saw Wade Rogers, a young waiter in his mid-20s, thin and nervous, standing outside the service entrance smoking a cigarette. He waved awkwardly when he saw me. "Hey, Mr. Sterling." "Wade." "Sorry about last night," Wade said, looking down at his shoes. "The party seemed nice, but..." He trailed off. "But what?" "Nothing. Forget it." "Wade," I said firmly. "Tell me. What happened?" He dropped the cigarette and crushed it with his heel. "I don't want to start drama, Mr. Sterling. I just overheard some stuff and felt bad for you." "What stuff?" "Your daughter's fiancé and his parents, in the alcove around 8 p.m. I was bringing bread to table 6 and I heard them." My pulse quickened. "Go on." "The guy, Julian, was showing them pictures on his phone. Houses, really expensive ones. He said soon all this will be mine. And his mom said," Wade hesitated, looking pained. "Said what?" "She said, we just have to tolerate the old man a little longer. Mia will inherit something and Julian can start his business with the proceeds." Wade looked miserable. "I shouldn't have listened, but it was gross. They seems like they were counting on you not being around much longer." I put a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Wade. You did nothing wrong." "Are you okay, Mr. Sterling?" "Better than okay," I said, my voice cold. "You just gave me exactly what I needed." I walked home, my mind racing with plans. In my home office, I logged back into our corporate database. Sterling Logistics uses a comprehensive employee management system. Every hire, every review, every complaint is documented. I pulled up Robert Mercer's file again. Hired August 2013, started as a logistics coordinator, promoted to operations manager in 2017. His performance reviews were solid technically, but there were notes in the behavioral section. 3 formal complaints in 2 years. I opened them. March 2024, Robert Mercer speaks condescendingly to warehouse staff, creates a hostile environment. September 2024, shows favoritism to certain employees while being overly critical of others. January 2025, made inappropriate comments about an employee's appearance. HR had addressed each with verbal warnings. Robert had apologized and the issues were marked resolved, but a pattern was there. I moved to Evelyn's file. Hired September 2013, senior accountant. Impeccable work record regarding the numbers, but in supervisor notes, Excellent accounting knowledge, but occasionally displays elitist attitudes towards support staff, difficult to collaborate with junior members. Nothing strictly actionable for termination yet, but a clear personality defect. Then I searched for Julian on LinkedIn. His profile appeared. Most recent job, financial analyst at Meridian Investments, left July 2025. I knew Tom Patterson, the CFO at Meridian Investments. We played golf occasionally. I texted him, "Hey Tom, know anything about a Julian Mercer? Worked for you until recently." His response came within 2 minutes. "Julian, yeah, decent with numbers, but major attitude problems. Clashed with senior management. Arrogant. We asked him to resign." "Why?" I asked. "He called a senior partner's analysis pedestrian in a client meeting." "Why do you ask?" "Engaged to my daughter." A long pause, then good luck with that. I set the phone down. The picture was complete. Julian was unemployed, in debt, and living with his parents. Robert and Evelyn were comfortable but not wealthy, dependent on their salaries. All three were convinced I was poverty-stricken. And Mia, my sweet Mia, was caught in the middle, trusting and blind to their machinations. I opened a blank document and started typing. Names, dates, financial details, Wade's testimony, everything I'd need to prove to Mia who Julian really was. Everything I'd need to show the Mercers the true cost of their arrogance. Outside, the sun climbed higher. I smiled. Let them think I'm weak. Let them think I'm finished. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Sunday morning came with the oppressive August humidity that made Indianapolis feel like you were breathing through a wet wool blanket. I'd barely slept 3 hours. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Julian's voice. Old failure. I pulled on my running shoes and headed out just after 6 a.m. The streets were empty. My route took me past familiar landmarks, but my mind was elsewhere. It was cataloging, remembering, piecing together a puzzle I'd been too trusting to see before. I decided I wasn't ready to show Mia the file just yet. I needed them to confirm everything in person one last time. I needed them to show their true colors so clearly that even love couldn't blind her. I called her Tuesday afternoon. "Sweetheart, want to do a family dinner this Sunday? My place." "That's sweet, Dodd. Let me check with Julian." "Invite his parents, too," I added. "I'd like to get to know them better." Pause. "Really? You sure? I know they can be a bit stiff." "I'm sure. Family should spend time together." She agreed, sounding happy. She thought I was accepting Julian, embracing the future she imagined. Little did she know I was preparing the stage for their downfall. Sunday arrived hot and clear. I set the table with my everyday dishes, white ceramic with tiny chips on the edges from 30 decades of use. I cooked fried chicken, mashed potatoes with lumps in them, green salad, and put out paper napkins. I filled a plastic pitcher with tap water. I wanted everything to look humble, bordering on poor. They arrived at 1 p.m. Evelyn wore an expensive navy dress that looked suited for a cocktail party, not a casual lunch. Robert wore pressed golf clothes. Julian wore designer jeans and a polo shirt with a logo I didn't recognize. Mia bounced in, kissing my cheek. "Dot, it smells great. You know I love your fried chicken." Evelyn surveyed the table, her lip curling slightly. "How charming. Home cooking. So authentic. Arthur does this himself?" "Can't afford delivery every night," I said with a smile, pulling out a chair for her. We sat. I served the food. They picked at the chicken like it was contaminated. "Very traditional," Evelyn said, cutting her chicken into microscopic pieces she didn't eat. Robert pushed his potatoes around his plate. "These old places, always something breaking, isn't there? Foundation, plumbing, electrical. It must be a nightmare." "I manage," I repeated my mantra. "For now, but at your age, Arthur, these things become burdens. You don't want to be dealing with a flooded basement at 70. Julian leaned back in my chair, the chair I'd bought 30 years ago when Mia was born. He looked around the room with a smirk. "Mia and I are thinking Carmel or Fisher's for our place. Good schools, modern amenities, smart home technology. Sounds nice, doesn't it?" "Sounds expensive," I said, taking a sip of water. "It is," Julian agreed, "but we're thinking long term, you know? No offense, babe, but we need something that reflects where we're going, forward thinking. Mia laughed uncomfortably. Dad's house is lovely. It has history.
It's got character, Evelyn corrected, which is just a polite way of saying it needs significant capital investment. I ate slowly, watching them perform. I said nothing. I let them hang themselves with their own words. More subtle insults disguised as concern. More assumptions about my financial struggles. They were so confident in their superiority that they didn't even try to hide it anymore. After dinner, I walked them to the door. Mia hugged me. Robert shook my hand with mechanical courtesy. Evelyn thanked me with empty words. They headed to their cars. Julian lingered on the porch. He turned back to me, his face serious. "Arthur, can I be real with you?" "Please." "Mia deserves better than this." He gestured vaguely at my house, my overgrown lawn, my life. "I want to give her the life she deserves, the life she hasn't had because, well, circumstances. I hope you understand. No hard feelings." I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the entitlement, the certainty that he was doing me a favor by taking my daughter off my hands. "I understand more than you think, Julian," I said. He smiled, satisfied, nodded, and walked away, thinking he'd won. I stood on my porch and watched them drive off. The sun was setting, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and red. It was a beautiful evening, the perfect temperature for what was coming. Inside, I cleaned up methodically. I threw away the paper napkins, put leftovers in containers, and washed the dishes by hand. Then I went to my office and pulled up the documentation I'd prepared. Monday morning, 6 a.m. I texted Mia. "Coffee, my treat, need to talk." She responded immediately. "Everything okay?" "Better if we talk in person. Rosie's Cafe at 8. I'll be there." I arrived early with a manila folder containing 43 pages of evidence. I ordered a black coffee and waited. Mia came in at 8 sharp, worry etched on her face. "Dad, what's wrong? Is it your health?" "Sit down, sweetheart." She sat. I slid the folder across the table. "What's this?" "The truth about Julian. Look with an open mind." Her expression shifted to one of defensiveness. "Dad, if this is about the house or the wedding budget, please, just look." She opened it. The first page was Julian's credit report. I watched her eyes scan the numbers. 18,000 in credit cards, I said quietly. 48,000 on his car, 62,000 in student loans. Total debt, $128,000. "Lots of people have debt, Dad," she said, though her voice wavered. "Turn the page." She turned it. His employment history, 5 jobs in 8 years, the gaps, and the most recent entry. "He told you he was consulting, didn't he? He was fired from Meridian in July. He's been unemployed for months. He said he was between projects." Keep reading. Screenshots of his social media followed. Expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Chicago, wine tastings, all dated from the last 6 months while he was unemployed and drowning in debt. Then the surveillance footage stills. I'd paid Angelo $200 for the security files from the engagement party. The grainy images showed Julian and his parents in that alcove, their faces twisted in mockery. And then the transcript of Wade's statement, signed and dated. Mia read it. "Soon all this will be mine. We just have to tolerate the old man until he dies." Her hands began to shake. "This can't be right." "Page 15, I said gently. His Instagram. Look at the dates. June 14th. Big plans ahead. Photo of engagement rings. June 28th. Sometimes you have to invest in your future. Photo of luxury houses. July 3rd. He proposed. "He was planning this," I said. "He targeted you. He thinks you're his ticket to a bailout." Tears began to fall onto the paper. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "You wouldn't have believed me. You were in love. You needed proof." "I'm so stupid," she whispered, burying her face in her hands. "You're not stupid, Mia. You're trusting. There is a difference." "What do I do?" I took her hand across the table. "That's your decision, but I need to tell you something else. Something that makes this worse." She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. Julian's parents work for me. Robert and Evelyn Mercer, they work at Sterling Logistics. Her eyes went wide. What? I built that company from nothing. 412 employees, $47 million in revenue. I own it, Mia. All of it. She stared at me, processing. You're rich? I'm comfortable, but I keep a low profile. Most employees have never met me. Julian thinks he's marrying you for an inheritance that barely exists. He thinks I have a rundown house and some bonds. He has no idea what I actually have. I paused. And his parents spent yesterday insulting the man who signs their paychecks. Mia stared at the wall, her expression hardening. The sadness was being replaced by anger. They called you a failure in your own home. Yes. What happens now? She asked. Now you decide. Break the engagement or don't. But if you break it, do it because you want to. She looked at the folder again, at the calculated betrayal. I need to call him. Use my phone if you want. No. She pulled out her own phone, dialed, and put it on speaker. Julian answered on the second ring. Hey babe, what's up? I was just looking at tile samples for the kitchen. We need to talk, Mia said, her voice steady. Sure, what about? Us, the engagement. I'm calling it off. Silence. Then a nervous laugh. What? Is this a joke? Is it pre-wedding jitters? It's not a joke, Julian. It's over. Why? Because of your dad? Did he say something? Because you're not who I thought you were. Your debt, your lies, the fact that you planned this from the start to get my father's money. Who's feeding you this? Julian shouted. It's him, isn't it? That old fool poisoned you against me. Mia's jaw set. Don't call my father a fool. Why not? That's what he is. Living in that dump, driving that piece of junk car. He's a failure, Mia, and he can't stand that I'm going to give you a better life. We're done, Julian. Don't contact me again. She hung up. She sat there shaking. I squeezed her hand. I'm proud of you. What happens now? She asked. I smiled, a cold, hard smile. Now I show the Mercers exactly who they've been disrespecting. Everything I'm going to do is legal, but they're going to learn a very expensive lesson. As we left the cafe, my phone buzzed. It was Julian calling me. I let it ring. He sent a text. You poisoned her against me. You'll pay for this. I didn't reply. Tomorrow the Mercers would walk into work as usual, and then their world would crumble. Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. I called Angela Price, my HR director. She's sharp, thorough, and absolutely professional. Angela, I need you to initiate a cultural compliance review. Robert and Evelyn Mercer, full assessment. May I ask the reason, Mr. Sterling? We've had concerning patterns emerge, anonymous complaints about workplace behavior. I want a thorough evaluation. Interview their colleagues, subordinates, anyone who's worked with them directly. Document everything. Understood. How comprehensive? Complete. If they sneezed incorrectly in 2018, I want to know about it. Angela spent the week conducting interviews. The reports she compiled were damning. Robert created a culture of fear. Evelyn treated people like furniture. Monday morning, August 27th, I dressed in my best suit, a navy blue Tailand Italian cut. I put on my silk tie and my leather shoes from London. I looked in the mirror and saw the CEO of Sterling Logistics, not the retired widower. I drove to the office in my Mercedes, the one I kept garaged. I arrived at 7:30 a.m. Angela met me in the lobby. They're scheduled for 9 a.m. My office? No, my office. She raised an eyebrow. You want them to see? I want them to understand. I took the elevator to the top floor. My office occupied the corner with panoramic windows overlooking the city, a mahogany desk, leather chairs, and a wall dedicated to company history, including a large portrait of me from the founding in 1995. At 9 a.m. exactly, Angela knocked. Mr. Sterling, Robert and Evelyn Mercer are here. Send them in. The door opened. They walked in, bickering quietly. They didn't look up until they were halfway across the room. When they saw me sitting behind the massive desk, Evelyn went pale, physically pale, as if her blood had been drained. Robert's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. No sound came out. "Please, sit," I said, gesturing to the chairs. They sat mechanically. Robert kept looking at the portrait on the wall, then back at me, trying to reconcile the images. "I imagine you're confused," I said calmly. "Let me clarify. I am Arthur Sterling. I founded this company 30 years ago. You have both worked for me for 12 years. "Mr. Sterling, we didn't know," Robert stammered. "That's the problem, Robert. You had no idea, and you didn't care to find out. You saw an old failure at an engagement party and assumed that was the sum of my existence." I opened the folder on my desk. "Angela's report. You've been here 12 years. Did you ever once wonder who really ran this company?" "We thought the CEO was anonymous," Evelyn whispered. "Yes, by design. It lets me see how people really are when they think no one important is watching." I slid the report across the desk. "I heard what Julian said at the engagement party. Every word. I heard you, Evelyn, talking about tolerating me. I know about the plans, the house hunting, the calculations about my death." "Mr. Sterling, please," Robert begged. "We made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but Lawrence and Mia—" "There is no Lawrence and Mia," I cut in. "She ended the engagement, and now I am going to give you a choice." They waited, terrified. "Option 1, you resign, effective immediately. I'll provide letters of recommendation based solely on your technical skills. You'll receive a small severance. Or, Robert whispered, or I terminate you for cause, cultural misalignment, gross misconduct, no severance, no recommendations, and a permanent note in your file that will follow you to every future employer." "That's not fair," Evelyn cried, tears streaming down her face. "Fair?" I stood up, slamming my hands on the desk. "You spent months judging me, mocking my house, my car, my lifestyle. You taught your son that success is measured by appearances and that people without obvious wealth are worth less. You planned to exploit my daughter, and now you're concerned about fairness?" Robert's shoulders slumped. "We'll resign. We'll take option 1. Smart choice. Angela has the paperwork. You'll clean out your desks today." "Today?" Evelyn gasped. "Today. And one more thing. Your mortgage was partially financed through our Employee Housing Assistance Program. That benefit ends with your employment. You have 7 days to find alternative financing." Robert's face went white. "But the banks without jobs." "That sounds like a problem for people who plan better," I said. "Goodbye." They left my office like condemned prisoners. Thursday afternoon, my home security system alerted me. Motion at the front door. I checked the camera. It was Julian. He was pounding on the door, screaming. I called 911. Then I called my attorney. By the time the police arrived, Julian was kicking my door. He was arrested for trespassing and harassment. We filed a restraining order the next day. 2 weeks later, on a Wednesday morning in September, I was leaving Rosie's Cafe when I saw him, Julian. He was standing on the sidewalk across the street. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. He saw me and started to cross. I held up my hand. "Stop right there. You have a restraining order." He stopped at the curb. "I just want to talk. You destroyed our lives." "No," I said, my voice carrying over the traffic. "You revealed who you really were. There's a difference." "If we'd known," he started. "If you'd known I owned the company, you would have kissed my feet. But because you thought I was poor, you treated me like trash. That tells me everything about your character." "My parents are losing the house," he spat. "We're in a rental. Are you happy?" I don't think about you at all, Julian. I checked my watch. Goodbye. Wait, he yelled. What happens now? I looked him in the eye. Now you learn the lesson your parents failed to teach you. Never judge a book by its cover. I turned and walked away. When I got home, Mia was in the kitchen. She was baking an apple pie. The house smelled of cinnamon and apples, the smell of home. I saw him today, I said. She paused, flour on her hands. Julian? Yes, he shouted at me across the street. Are you okay? I'm fine. He's miserable. They're all miserable. We sat at the table as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows. Dad, said Mia softly, thank you for protecting me. Always, sweetheart. Do you feel guilty about his parents? I thought about it, about the insults, the greed, the way they looked at my daughter as a financial asset. Justice isn't always satisfying, I said, taking a slice of the warm pie, but it is always necessary. Outside, the leaves were beginning to turn gold. The air was crisp. My daughter was safe, my company was secure, and the parasites were gone. It was a good day. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.